we might as well get started because it's a little bit after 12, and if we have others join us, as you know, this session is recorded and will be available afterwards if you'd like to review it again afterwards or share it with other people. There's that possibility. Um, we are the United Church of Christ Musicians Association, where um, we encourage people from all faiths, not just the UCC, but anybody who is a church musician. We encourage them to join. Many of our members serve smaller churches, and we have found that this Saturday sharing is a good way to get people around the table or on the screen and from different parts of the country to kind of share what things are going. And we try and choose topics that are of interest to a number of different people, not just particularly one size or fits all type of thing. So we have some people that have been serving larger congregations, and as I said, but many of them are smaller. Um, so the subject came up based on just something that I have been thinking about and talking about with my minister um, about the church's attendance and how society in general seems to be going. And I was reminiscing about the time when I'm 70 years old. So when I was reminiscing of the time when I was growing up and when some family didn't go to church, there was a phone call later on in the day. It says, "Is everybody at your house okay? Because I didn't see you in church today." It's not the same type of society that we live in now. So it's one of the things that we have to kind of think about is, so how do we engage people today? Especially youth? And I'm very pleased to have our former past president of the UCCMA with me this morning, uh, who is going to share with us a little bit about some of the things that he's done at his, or they've done at this church. I'll share some of the things that we've done at mine, and hopefully, if you have something that you have in your background or you've tried and you seem to have gotten good results, it's not it's no longer a program where we can get people on a committed basis every week and have like a 50 voice children's choir that sing, it's how do we engage them today or tomorrow, and how can we bring them back next month, so it's that type of planning that I'm seeing more and more of, um, and the results are successful, but it does take some specific thinking toward that. And I'll share some of the things we've done, but let me first of all introduce Greg and have him tell a little bit about himself and what he'd like to be able to bring to this discussion.
Well, thanks, Jim. Yeah, I'm always curious in examining um, myself when it comes to ministry and thinking back, what made me fall in love with the church? And I encourage you to do the same thing. Somewhere along in your formation years, something happened that made you want to be in church today and in serving your churches. And so I encourage you to look at that and really identify that. I could go on and on about how we make church meaningful for children and youth. And I've got some ideas I'll share with you, just a few things. But in general, I first of all would say that I really believe in children and youth being in worship. I know that a lot of churches have the practice of, bringing them in for the opening hymn and a call to worship, and then we shove you off to children's church or Sunday school somewhere. And, you think about the message that sends. And in my own church, we did that for years. And I feel like we were raising generations of kids that were, then we were saying, church worship service is really not for you. And so big surprise when, they attend very sporadically. So I really believe, I remember as a kid, I was bored a lot of times, but we had to stay in church. When I was a little kid, my mom let me bring a Matchbox car or two, and I'd play with Matchbox cars on the pew, but I was in church. And the other general thing I'll say about that is that I believe that children and youth are fascinated by the drama of church and worship. It is a drama. It is, there's a flow. There is music that they don't hear anywhere else. There is participation in congregational singing that they probably don't hear anywhere else. And I believe that they're fascinated by that drama. They also, in general, want to aspire to do what adults do. And so I encourage our young families, to absolutely have a young toddler stand on the pew when the congregation stands. Let them stand right on the pew cushion and be up and level. Hold, if we're singing out of the hymnal, hold the hymnal and, point the text. You don't read a hymnal like you do a book. You got to read one line and then go down to another line. So, help them follow that. Help them to be a part of the drama. Would you like me to give you a few little examples of things that we've done, or do you have any comments about what I've just said? Well, let me give you a few examples. I do, like Jim, I believe that at least for me, the days of announcing that we're going to have a children or youth choir at 5:30 on Thursday afternoon are long gone. That COVID killed that. But even prior to COVID, I was having to reinvent the wheel because I just was not getting them there on a regular basis. So I did what our school system does down here, and I identified certain projects for leadership and worship that I knew that I wanted them to lead. And then I would say, okay, I need you for 3 rehearsals to pull this off. And that Sunday, the date for that Sunday, and I would give them a written contract that both the youth or child and the parents have to sign that said, and I found that I can work with any number that you give me, if it's 2 or 3 or 12 or 15, but I want to know what I've got to work with. And so that worked for me. And for instance, we might be doing a scripture tableau, where during the scripture, the children create and invent a still motion hold tableau that they think interprets that scripture. And we might also ask them to be, you'd throw into that Sunday, all right, we're going to need a couple acolytes. Children love to play with fire, so let them process and light the candles, or process with the Bible. And maybe also we might need the scripture tableau, the acolytes, I don't know, maybe lead just one line in a prayer or litany where the children have one line to say. And so, give them a few things that are really accessible. And I could do that with probably 2 rehearsals. And so I'd say, okay, we're going to do this on June 3, and I need 2 Thursday nights. Here are the dates and times, and you sign the contract and be there. And that really worked for me. And so what we were doing was giving them leadership roles beyond just singing, but they were actually participants, partakers in leading the worship services. There are a lot of things that you can do if you have access to chimes or bells. Singing, of course, is one of them. Acolytes, reading scripture, or interpreting scripture dramatically. I remember a few years ago, my minister was preaching on the prodigal son. And so while that scripture was being read, I had one of my slouched shouldered, gangly teenage boys in barefooted and in jeans and a ratty old t-shirt just saunter down the center aisle to the altar. And I'm telling you, that was powerful, you know. So um, um, also, children they do make wonderful greeters or ushers. So there again, you get the idea. I could go on and on about being creative, a simple dance motion. If you have a refrain, maybe some of you do the bring forth the rain of mercy, bring forth the rain of peace. Have them do a simple just motion that they create, have them agree upon that. And then in church, they don't even have to come up front, but wherever they're seated. I did that with them not too long ago, and the whole congregation, without saying anything, caught on to it, and they were doing it. So I don't want to take any more time, but I've got a bunch of stuff up my sleeve that my philosophy is to give them a taste of leadership, not just get them up there to sing something cute, but be sure that they're doing something that the adults do that has value and has meaning toward leading our congregation in worship and service to God. So.
Thank you, Greg. Excellent points. Some of the things I find similar with some of the things that my church is trying to do. To give you a perspective, my church currently has maybe about 120 people that show up for service on a Sunday morning. I have an adult choir of about 23 voices, and in the Sunday school, which will run from September until June, they have approximately 20 people, 20 to 23 people. And that's actually growing because with COVID, we were kind of decimated for a while. People got out of the habit of coming to church, I would say. And so we had to do things that try to engage them. And it was again, the drama seemed to really be something that people, not only kids, but people can latch on to as well. Um, One of the things that we've done on a number of years now is toward Chris, rather than have a Christmas pageant where people, okay, just stand and it's lackluster type of things. We make it a little bit special. We have engaged a group that has colossal puppets.
Mm-hmm.
And these by colossal, I mean these puppets are on sticks. They're 10 feet tall. And so when they come into the sanctuary, everybody just looks up. And I make that a very special service, and it tells the story, the pageant, same thing, but only thing is we have 10 characters that are playing into that pageant, and I make sure that they process through every portion of the sanctuary. So I have one go here, and I have another one go there, and I have one come down this other aisle, and it gets close and personal, so that they all have that type of view. And then we've come up with some special things for the kids that can actually partake in. For example, we make sheep out of black oven mitts, so that it's a hand puppet, and they put wool on it and little bells on them. And so when the kids come down the aisle and they have the little sheep on their arm, they are the sheep that the shepherd is kind of doing. At the end, we have them all hold a star on a stick. They become the heavenly host. So that's great for those kind of special services, but what do you do when it's just a normal service or something like that? Um, Similar to Greg, we do have acolytes. That's something that we've started, and not on an every basis, but typically on a communion Sunday, especially. It makes it a little bit more special, and they so that they partake to come in. They have robes, and they know how to do that. We also have them become ushers, or they collect the offering during the offertory, and we have them bring that up. Uh, so it's involving them as they look forward to that opportunity to be actually a get out of their seat and do something. We've had uh, it's like a jazz Sunday where we've had Dixieland jazz type of group come in, and we do that typically just before the start of Lent. And we've had show and tell, so that the kids come up to the front of the meeting house, and the musicians will show the instruments and show how they play them, and the trumpet, they show how to do that, and everybody goes, and so it's a great type of thing. And it gets can you imagine congregationalists getting up and clapping? That's heresy, I know, but it's something that, even the adults get into the swing of that, and they enjoy it. So I just wanted to pass some of those thoughts along as well. Any comments or thoughts along the lines, or what have you tried, or what would you like to try? What would you like to see in your congregations like that?
Tell us where you are in terms of youth and children ministry. Is that thriving for you? Or is that a challenge? Is your church doing anything at this point? What are you seeking to do? What are you doing? Either
Yeah.
of you.
Oh, Suzanne or Taylor. Oh, I thought you were asking Jim that.
No, I was going to ask Taylor, you go first. You were saying that you serve a church of about 20 people in attendance and you play guitar. And what are you seeking this morning? Can you share what you're doing, if anything, or are you here to find out what you could be doing? Where are your thoughts for a few
Yeah,
minutes?
I think it's a little bit of both. Right now at my church, we are sort of in this catch-22 where we are small, so we no longer have a consistent, like, we don't have a nursery program, we don't have like a dedicated children's pastor. And so because of that, but the reason why we don't have that is because we don't have young families regularly attending to bring their children in the first place. So it's difficult for us. I mean, we do have people who come, they just don't come every week, and we never know which weeks they're going to come or what have you. So but I will say that with the space layout in my church, we got rid of our pews a few years back and we moved to chairs. And there is a children's table in the sanctuary. So when there are children, there is a place, and it has coloring books and blocks and things like that for them. Because that was a conversation we did have several years back of like, hey, we have this pattern of having the children leave the service. And so we sort of moved through that and decided, no, we'll just make a space in the sanctuary, and they'll just be there. So I would say, yeah, I would really say that our challenge now is just that the children aren't coming every week, that when they do come, it's like one or two. And the I'm not the music director. So right now there really isn't any integration per se with the children when they come into the music program specifically. There might be times when the children do come. There's always the pastor will put in a moment for children and engage them in some way. And sometimes the music director and the pastor will coordinate ahead of time, and there will be something musical that happens during that time. But that's not every single time that the children come. So I think you know, we're trying to do the best that we can. And I'm actually curious to hear from anybody, because one of the things that I just personally am thinking about a lot is like just integrating and expanding more genres in church music. And I'm curious to learn from anybody if you found that expanding genres has had any noticeable impact in interesting children and youth in engaging in the services or not. I suspect that could be one of many factors, but I'm just curious if anyone has noticed that and really identified if that at all is my
Speak from my church experience, and absolutely, my congregation has come to realize that if they don't like the type of music that we do on one Sunday, come another Sunday, because it's going to be entirely different. I will do things. We did a Psalm 23 setting by Bobby McFerrin just recently. Last year we did for Palm Sunday, we did Hosanna from Jesus Christ Superstar. And we actually acted it out. I had the choir come in with their worst clothes on. We were the raft, you know, coming in from the back of the church, and we had the person who was pilot was in a business suit up in the front. And so it was more of a contemporary. I came down, and the person who played Jesus, I actually took a selfie with him with my phone. So it engaged everybody, because, you know, well, some of the old traditionalists didn't like that much, but everybody else was talking about it. So there is the opportunity to include some special things. Greg mentioned the Prodigal Son. One of the most effective pieces of music I've ever heard is Bring Him Home from Les Mis. And tying that in with the Prodigal Son is very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. So yeah, look for music that is resonant today and pertinent to today, and see if it fits somehow in this. It has to work with the story, with the scripture, with the theme of the service, and then it becomes very powerful.
I think that I commend you, first of all, Taylor, for trying to expand the musical horizons and genres that you use in worship. I think that we live and serve in a time where the possibilities are just immense. And so I would say two things. Be sure that whatever you do in church, that it's done well, because we do not serve ourselves well, or we do not attract younger people or anyone if we try to be something that we're not, or that we can't pull off authentically. So I like the fact that you play guitar. I think that could be a wonderful start to all sorts of things, as Jim said, to use and identify secular music that fits a theme. But I think of folk music also, music that comes from the folk. And it's interesting how I've done a fair amount of teaching with people writing our own folk songs and liturgies. They can do it. That sounds wild, but it's really pretty easy. And so we've had some real success in people writing a refrain or one line that is sung to a litany. So yeah, I just think that the possibilities are endless, but be sure it's done well. The last thing I'll say about that also is that remember that the church is a unique spot for people to experience worship and that drama that they don't experience anywhere else. And so we have to teach children, especially again, how to read that hymnal, or even if it's printed in the bulletin, let them follow those words. It goes pretty fast. Have a parent point the words to them. Um, I'll never forget a little girl that we were doing Now Thank We All Our God, and who from our parents' arms has blessed us on the way. And she finished and she said, "Oh, Mr. Greg, that's so beautiful. It makes my eyes wet." And she was crying and she was touched. Her emotions were touched by that German hymn of centuries ago. So don't forget the uniqueness of our traditions also. But yeah, do it well, do it authentically, make it from the people, and then the possibilities are endless. Suzanne, what are you doing?
Well, what made me think about this a little bit more was that in I think it was October when it was Youth Sunday for, with the UCC and things like that. I I put them in charge of a lot of things. So they did the lay reading, um, they did special music. One little guy, I have a weekly, what do we call CAT, which is Children's Arts at Trinity. And so this little guy who was in second grade and he wanted to play the colored handbells. He wanted to play 3 solos, I only let him do 2. Um, but, and then, the one little girl wanted to do the children's message. She wanted to share a book that she loved, and so we pretty much did everything that day, and the people loved it. And they had made, tie-dyed shirts, so not ice-dyed shirts. So they all wore those, and their jeans, and they were just super happy. And so I try to get kids involved as much as I can. I finally will put where the third Sunday of each month we have children lay readers, so at least I get one family there sometime, but we just don't have a lot of families. And, sports take over everything. Even now, my CAT program, a couple of times the kids can't come because of ballet or because of, so it's just kind of frustrating, but I just always go, whoever walks in the door, we're going to do stuff. But what I found is that some of the older songs at CAT now, they're loving to sing, like, he's got the whole world in his hand. I mean, just all those things. And they come up with all sorts of motions to do. So I got to get those into the church service.
That
But
sounds wonderful.
no.
Yeah, and I think you're both saying that, it's hard to get people there. You never know who's going to come. Maybe we need leadership that encourages them just to come a little early on that day and pull them aside for 10 minutes before the service
Yeah.
and say, would you do this for us? And make it very practical and achievable for them to feel confident, like they're doing it well. But, maybe that's an answer, because there again, I think our best goal is to not make them look cute or anything like that, but to have them do something substantial and of value toward leading worship. So maybe we just do it, spur of the moment. Who's going to come through the door? And here's a possibility that we can ask. I never talk down to children, no matter how young. Talk to them like adults. Look at this, and I think you could do this really well. And would you be willing to consider this if I work with you a few minutes here? And maybe that's the answer.
I actually did something similar to that on Monday, Thursday night. It was a readers theater. And so originally it was supposed to be a lot of the kids, but of course they all go on vacation and things like that. But what I did find is a lot of them, when I just said, you're going to read this part, you are, and they went, oh, okay. And then I had a lot of adults too, but it was about a half and half thing. So that worked out pretty good, for them just to go, oh, okay, I get to read, but you're right. You have to sometimes just surprise them and make them be part of the service.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think one of the things just to think about for yourself is how welcoming is your church to to the children? Is it something that they feel comfortable at? And think about young families or with kids or so forth. And I know we have we have a table in the back of the meeting house, as Taylor had mentioned that she had in her church, with colorings and soft toys and things of that nature. We get some people, older people who have difficulty hearing, who say that the noise is distracting. So we try and work with them. It's a great problem to have that you have little kids that are making noise. So in your church, that's a beautiful thing. But if it does upset some people, have them move forwards or farther away from that area of the meeting house to kind of make them feel more welcome, and that you're hearing that they want to hear the sermon and they find them new. But if they sit right back there with it, then they are going to be interrupted by little noise at there. But it's a joyful noise to have. One of the things that we do at our church is we view a lot of things that happen during the week. There are a lot of events that happen at the church. We views those as an extension of worship. And so one of the things that we have is an outreach team, which is in charge of our mission projects and working with various agencies and so forth. And they do a couple of different events during the year. One is called Harvest Pack. I don't know if that's just something up in our area or if it's something that might be more nationwide or something but look up a Harvest Pack. And what it is this group, Harvest Pack, comes to your church with a lot of the raw ingredients necessary to make individual meals, dried meals that will be sent to Ukraine or sent to Africa or sent to all these different places where help is needed. And what it is the people come to the church, and we do it usually on a Saturday morning, and we make like 10,000 meals. And we have people from all ages. We encourage young families because little kids can say, okay, you hold this thing, and then when it's your turn, you put it in the bag. And so it gives them each of their responsibility. And we end it with a pizza party. So that that's a way of making the church feel more inviting to the kids on a regular basis, not just on a Sunday morning. So they will feel, oh yeah, that's where we did the Harvest Pack. So they feel welcome and that they have a part to play in the church.
No?
Our church has not had a Christian education director or a family resource person for quite a while. And parents found that kind of upsetting because they really depended on that person when we did have someone. And so they've established a family worship on Friday evenings for anybody who wants to attend. And it's geared towards kids. And they have a storyteller who's there. This is twice a month they do this. And they have a storyteller, and they also have a woman who's a song leader. I've not attended, so I don't know what they do, but they do worship. They go in the meeting house to do something that must be engaging for the kids. And then sometimes they'll have pizza. I think one night they had pizza and 50 people showed up and they ran out. Because anybody's invited to come, so I suspect there are people of all ages, but it is geared towards the kids. And I think that also frees up the minister to be able to pay more attention to the families too at that time, rather than on Sunday morning. And I think that's been successful. I don't know if you have any more to add to that.
Yeah, the musician they hired for that is basically a guitar player, and she teaches school music, so she's really good with the kids. So she gets them all participating. I've seen a couple of videos of their services. I haven't been to one either, but there was one video on Facebook that I saw, and they were all in a circle, and they were all clapping and stamping their feet and dancing around and having a great time. So it was very informal. The storyteller is a trained actor and is an African-American gentleman, and he relates really well with the kids and the families. And so some of the people who weren't coming to church at all because there wasn't anything for their kids to do, are now participating, not regularly, but they are participating on those Friday nights. And sometimes they can work on something on Friday night that then they will bring to the Sunday morning service and take part and present into the whole congregation. This is what we learned or what we did on Friday night. And that's another way of kind of getting them involved in our Sunday morning worship as well.
How long, like what hours is that?
It's like 6:45 or something. It's
Yeah.
or even 6:30, I think. They do it fairly early in the evening, and it probably doesn't last all that long. Unfortunately, neither of us have been to it, which is terrible. But yeah, but they do start kind of earlier.
I know, about 3 months ago, we started to do Fellowship Friday night, which is a game night. And the first one we had like 6 kids come too. And then this last, well, I guess we've only done it twice. But this last one, no kids could come because it just depends on what's going on busy. But it is fun just to get a variety of ages together, so that they get to know each other and talk and stuff like that. But I love that idea about, the storyteller and the guitar and singing and moving and stuff like that. Might have to do that.
Yeah.
We did another, before we did the family worship on Friday night, a couple of years earlier, we had an associate minister at that time who liked to do programs called Messy Church. And they would usually do that on a Friday night as well for families. And those of us in the music program, we got involved once because our local American Guild of Organists chapter had purchased one of the organ kits, the little 2-octave organ kit that kids can just put together in a 45-minute time and have a playing instrument. And so it was really an education for what an organ is. And so we had that organ kit already. And then after the program was, everybody took part in doing a different part of making the organ, putting it together. And then we went over and we had one boy locally who was a very talented keyboard player. And we commissioned one of my friends to write a piece for a big organ and this little 2-octave 2-stop organ. And he called the piece David and Goliath. And so once we had the organ built, we all went over to the church itself. And then this 10-year-old boy, I think he was at that point, and then me and the big organ, we played this piece to kind of end up the evening. But it was about the most, participation by everybody, because everybody could take a part in doing this. And it was very educational and a whole lot of fun.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I wonder if there's one of those little organ kits in the Baltimore area. It's kind of fun to assemble them.
We did another Messy Church in music with our handbells, and we just had all the handbells there and just let everybody try playing a simple little piece. I think we did get 5 of our young children they had worked up the previous week or two. It might have been with those colored bells. So that we had those, but we also had the big handbell set. And I once wrote a piece that's kind of improvisational, random ringing, so that almost anybody could play it. And we did that piece. So we involved, again, the whole congregation, but lots of kids got to play handbells for the first time.
One of the things my church used to do when we had many more children coming, and it was they were arriving, they were coming more on a regular basis, is we used to end every single service with "We Are Marching in the Light of God," and we would have this basket of like bells and shakers, and the children and the teenagers would just get to pick whatever they wanted, and would just march around the sanctuary shaking them, or and then the adults, we started just taking our car keys out and shaking along with them. So you know, even having a basket of just simple small percussive things like that, and having a space in the service where it's more permissible, I suppose, to make some more noise, is a way that in the past we were engaging children. And then of course now, post-COVID and everything, and some of the changes we've made, we have the children who do come, they're small, they're toddlers. Sometimes they just wander around, and the pastor and everybody, we just kind of let them. And the only thing, there's always like so many adults watching. We just want to make sure they're not sticking their finger in a socket or anything like that. But these kids, they'll like toddle off, and they'll walk up onto the sanctuary, or they'll, you know, do whatever. And it's, you know, the service never stops. Then the only thing that we really care about is just that, you know, they don't hurt themselves. There was even one time recently where a little girl just went up, and she was just kind of touching and playing with the mic stand. And, you know, we were all just she wasn't going to like do anything. It wasn't going to fall over or anything like that. But just having a wider church culture that is just more okay with little kids moving around, even though they do have their space, their table, you know, if they do kind of get up and wander, to just not immediately like react in such a, oh no, don't do that, you have to stay right here, but just to kind of let them do that while just making sure that they're staying safe, and just continuing on. If they make noise, the pastor will just like include that in the sermon. Just things like that, that I know we've done to help, that just expands a little bit beyond just music stuff, but just like a church culture thing.
I think that is so inspiring to hear, because, you know, I asked you when we started this morning, what made you fall in love with the church? And, you know, I've been kind of keeping notes of some of the things that you're saying, but, you know, creating, Taylor, that safe place for children and youth is maybe the top of the list of our goals, is that they feel safe and in that place. And also to provide them with an intergenerational experience. Other than their parents, where else in our culture, other than church, do they really find a true intergenerational experience where they can build relationships with people that are their grandparents' age? That doesn't happen in school. And what else was I writing down? Self-esteem, to give them things that develop their self-esteem and recognizing their unique personalities and valuing that. Obviously, talent, self-confidence. These are things that the church can offer that are unique. Expanding their horizons. We talked about that, them loving drama, but expand those horizons. And then just their involvement and responsibility for leadership and worship, I still think is a great one. So none of those things are musical, really oriented. Interesting enough, you know, as most of us serving in music areas in our church, I think about that kind of list of goals that we might create for ourselves. None of those are really musical goals. They can happen through music, but I think they're higher goals than music when it comes to the church. So I love that you have that safe space and an intergenerational space for children to be, and to talk about welcoming. Boy, that hits it right on the nail. It's great. make a list, you know, make a non-musical list of what your church is doing, or what you want to strive to do. I'm going to talk to my minister about this list, and because I think that, you know, we talk about sports are recognizing a talent, and it's a group activity, but I'm not sure that that is always a safe, certainly not an intergenerational, not an expanding of horizons, not, you know, many things that the church, probably not real self-esteem oriented in sports, unless you're the star quarterback. So I think that we have a chance to really develop and think about some wonderful uniquenesses of the church and how we can offer that to families. Yeah. Cool.
That's an excellent way to kind of wrap this up at the end. Is Greg has so aptly said, is that the people here around this and our peers, we are holding the future in our hands, and we have the ability to make this meaningful for the next generation and their generations that follow. So I'm very encouraged by your efforts that you've shared with us today. And I'm look forward to having this video shared with others. So even if, you know, share it with your youth minister or your minister or something like that. When you get the link of this, you can share it with most anybody, and they will have access to the topics, and at least plant the seeds about what things we'd be able to do in the future. Another place for seeds to be received and to be developed, we have a conference that is going to be in Greenwich, Connecticut. It's going to be in July. And it will be it's called The Place at the Table. And it's specifically designed to have people who may be marginalized in our congregations or in our fields, and have them kind of feel there is a place for us here. We have again, for self-esteem, for intergenerations, for community, and to building that. It's something that we're striving to focus on as part of the theme of the conference. That's going to be held in July. If you would please take a look at the UCCMA.org website. There is a place to register. And if it's going to be your first conference that you attend, you do have the option to see if you can get a scholarship by writing to our president, Don, and he would, you know, be able to help you out with the financial portion of this. So there's a number of different topics that will be discussed there. And I hope to see you there, because I'm going to be leading a session there, and I will be in attendance, and we will look forward to hearing what other topics people might want to have for our Saturday sharing. And we will not be having one in June or through the summer, because things tend to slow down. We will start up again in September. So watch for wherever you see the news for this one, and we will hopefully see you down the road.
And feel free to submit ideas for future Saturday sharings that would be meaningful to you. So, you know, even is there an alternate time that works better for you on a weekday afternoon or evening, or should we stick with Saturdays? What topics would interest you? So feel free to share that with Jim or myself or anybody here. If you go on the UCCMA.org webpage, all of the board members are listed. You'll see Jim's email right there. It's very handy, and share that with him. And I think I'm still on that page. I'm the immediate past president, so that's the reason I'm questioning that.
Yeah. You can also respond to any email you get from us. Just reply, and we'll get the information off to the right person. So we'd love to know what you're thinking.
Yep. Great to meet you both, and good to have you with us this morning. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and this will be shared with all the people who are watching. People have signed up for this event, but a lot of people don't come because they're planning on the video. So if the two of you were essential to this session, that's what I'm saying.
Thank you for your sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
All right.
Goodbye.
So long, everyone.